Panteleimon Oleksandrovych Kulish was a Ukrainian writer, critic, poet, folklorist, and translator. Overview. Panteleimon Kulish, born the 7th of August 1819 in Voronezh, the 14th of February 1897 in Motronyuka, Chernigov Governorate, prominent writer, historian, ethnographer, and translator. He was born into an impoverished Cossack gentry family. After completing only 5 years at the Novhorodcheversky Gymnasium, he enrolled at Kiev University in 1837 but was not allowed to finish his studies because he was not a noble. He obtained a teaching position in Lusk in 1840. He wrote his first historical novel in Russian, Mikhailo Chernyshchenko, or Little Russia 80 years ago. Mikhailo Maximovich promoted Kulish's literary efforts and published several of his early stories. His first longer work written in Ukrainian was the epic poem Ukraina. In 1843–5 Kulish taught in Kiev and studied Ukrainian history and ethnography. He befriended Taras Shevchenko, Mykola Kostomarov, and Vasil Belozersky. The circle later became the nucleus of the secret Cyril and Methodius Brotherhood. Panteleimon Kulish was the first person known to translate the whole of the Bible into the modern Ukrainian language and was also the first to write historical novels in Ukrainian. His most famous contribution in this field was the novel Chorna Rada, which was set in Cossack times. Kulish was also active in historical writing, composing a brief history of Ukraine in verse and a much larger history of the reunification of Rus in 3 volumes. The latter dealt with the era of Hetman Bohdan Khmelnytsky in the 17th century. His 2-volume collection of Ukrainian folklore, Notes on Southern Rus, retains its scholarly significance to the present day. During his early years at the University of Kiev, Kulish came under the influence of the historian and literary figure Mikhailo Maximovich, who turned his attention to his native Ukrainian culture. In the 1840s, he became close to the poet Taras Shevchenko and the historian Mykola Kostomarov and participated in the illegal Brotherhood of Saints Cyril and Methodius, which envisioned a Ukrainian national rebirth, including national independence within a free and equal Slavic federation. In 1847, Kulish was arrested for his participation in this organization and spent some time in prison and a few years in exile. In the late 1850s, he was reunited with Kostomarov and others of the Cyril-Methodian Brethren and participated in the Ukrainian journal Osnova. At this time, he published his famous Notes on Southern Rus, in which he pioneered a new Ukrainian orthography for the Ukrainian vernacular, the Kulishivka alphabet, based on phonetics rather than etymology. This later became the basis of the modern written Ukrainian language. In the 1860s and 1870s, he gradually turned more conservative and began to criticize Shevchenko, the Cossack revolts, and the ideal of the Cossacks as the defenders of popular liberty. Eventually, despite Tsarist repression of Ukrainian culture and the ban on the appearance of the Ukrainian language in print, he developed a theory that Ukraine and Russia should be politically united but divergent in culture, an approach which won few adherents among the Ukrainian intelligentsia of the time. Nevertheless, this conservative approach to Ukrainian affairs was never completely extinguished and was later resurrected in a different form by other Ukrainian political thinkers such as Vyacheslav Lipinski, Stepan Tomaszewski, and others. In the 1880s, Kulish visited Austrian Galicia and, in light of the ban on Ukrainian publications in the Russian Empire, cooperated with the Ukrainian Cultural cultural and political leaders there. Thus, he was one of the first Ukrainian figures to, at least in part, successfully bridge the gap between Russian and Austrian Ukraine. He spent his last years isolated on his homestead in eastern Ukraine. During these years he translated a great deal of West European literature, including Shakespeare, into Ukrainian.